Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. Ukraine War News Update, first part thereof for the 21st of December 2024. Well, incredibly close to Christmas Day in the UK. And it is a little bit late for me today due to the fact that there's things going on in the house and kitchens full of stuff that needs to be sorted and wrapping and everything such as that. So apologies for being a couple of hours later than usual today. So I'm going to start with the Ukrainian General Staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before, or the usual caveat supply, of course. And you can find those caveats in the description to the video below. 1,860 personnel lost in a single day is an incredibly high number. I think it's the fourth highest number of the war so far. So it's absolutely staggering. There, 10 tanks is a tad above the daily average, and I think contextually that is pretty high for Russian losses there. 18 armoured personnel vehicles, a tad below the daily average, but pretty close, and 32 artillery systems is, again, up in that category. The last couple of days have been higher there. 98 vehicles and fuel tanks is an incredibly high number in that category, and I think that shows that the Russians are using those other sorts of vehicles to do their attacks, to mount their attacks, such as SUVs, golf buggies, a lot of quads and buggies being blown up at the moment. So I think that gives you an indication of where they are with regard to their equipment, their access to appropriate materiel. Okay, going on, let's look at a few bits and pieces. Russia has been destroying bridges in the Donetsk region. This is an unverified video, but the Russians' claim was near Konstantinopolska in Donetsk region. So a couple of bridges are supposed to have been blown in that region, and a Fab 500 aerial guided glide bomb destroying a bridge, reinforced concrete bridge near Velika Novosilka. That's on the southern front. So some huge explosions there. They're really going hard at some of this infrastructure. Okay, what else? What do we have here? This is Rylsk. Okay, now there was a pretty serious HIMARS strike on Rylsk yesterday, and I think it must have been pretty good. Don't really know what was hit, but considering the Russian envoy to the UN has spoken about this and said there will be retaliation, you know they're big hits when this happens. This has happened a couple of times recently where they said we're going to retaliate for that, and we're all like, well, for what? I mean, it just looked like a pretty bog standard hit to us. And it just means that there's actually something else going on there. It's more serious than one might think. So Rylsk is in the Kursk region. You've got the salient there, and then you just got north of there, there's one of the main sort of towns called Rylsk, which would be one of the staging posts, no doubt, for the front line. It's not too far behind the whole sector. And it was somewhere when they were originally going into Kursk that we were talking about, well, are they going to push for Rylsk? Are they going to push for here? Are they going to push? How close are they going to get to Kursk itself, the city of Kursk? And so Rylsk is quite important, I think, for that front, for the Russians. And we got a pretty important strike, it appears, on some target in that city. And you can see, you know, there's lots of debris here from a pretty major strike. In Rylsk, Kursk region, Russian Armed Forces military deployment sites were hit with ATACMS missiles. So multiple strikes there. Powerful strike on Rylsk in the Kursk region, according to Russian voenkas, so Russian mill bloggers. And then here we have it, Nebenzia, who's the envoy to the UN, said Russia's response to the shelling of Rylsk by the AFU will not take long to come. Meanwhile, ammunition explodes there. So the pedagogical college building is still burning. Firefighters can't put it out because ammunition explodes there. Was the claim previously. Other ones, multiple targets. These are from different times. I just put in Rylsk to Blue Sky. Multiple targets in Rylsk, Kursk region hit by HIMARS. Video showed the aftermath of a strike near the Culture Palace. Ukraine conducted ATACMS ballistic missile strikes on Russian army officer barracks in Rylsk, Kursk region. At least 7 Russians killed there. The Russians complained that fires rage into the night in Rylsk following Ukrainian HIMARS strikes at scare quotes teacher college because ammunition continues to detonate. These will be co-opted by the Russian military, these establishments, and that's why they've been hit. Russian barracks, officers' dormitories, etc., etc. Okay, what else? We have Edward Hunter Christie. Do you believe in karma? Karma is a word. What matters is the ability to... oh my goodness. It's all going a bit wrong there. Let's sort that out. Yeah, the ability to launch high explosives at the enemy. So Rylsk in Russia almost completely without electricity, and ammunition detonation has not yet been extinguished, although it probably has now. This was a couple of nights ago. 88 residential buildings were without heat supply. The city has problems with gas supply due to damage to a gas pipe. So that's Rylsk. And then more images like we've seen before. Nebenzia, Nebezhnia, sorry, saying that there will be a response to the strike there, and it will be swift. Local Russian authorities allege the attack was carried out using HIMARS. Absolutely. So that's good news that the Ukrainians are still able to make some significant strikes on military targets in that region. Ukraine carried out the first attack exclusively as well. So this is new. Exclusively, according to the Institute for the Study of War, with the help of robotic systems. So the attack was carried out near the village of Lipsy in Kharkiv. So you've got those two sectors just north of the city of Kharkiv, where you have the Lipsy and Hlyobike area, and then you've got the Vovchansk area. So this is the one to the west, to the left, the Lipsy one. So there, the Ukrainians used dozens of robotic systems, drones equipped with machine guns, drones to plant and neutralize mines on enemy positions, and that's all being coordinated by these pretty high-tech command posts, as you can see here. Pretty incredible stuff. And then loads of these drones. We know that they've upscaled these drones. This is the evolution of war before our very eyes. I don't think there's anything. He goes on to say, as a result of the operation, Russian positions were successfully destroyed. Anton Gerashenko says, as in early December, the 13th Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, Katia, conducted its first fully robotic operation against the enemy in the Kharkiv direction. This shaping operation aimed to create conditions for the brigade's further advancement. So you send these guys in first. I guess, rather they get taken out by mines, or they take out the mines themselves, and they're operating remotely, and then they go and do their stuff, do the shaping operations, and then once it's somewhat safer, you send in your troops, and these guys can do suppressive fire, they can blow up areas, they can lay mines, they can get rid of, demine. Gerashenko says, for the first time, such a large number of robotic and unmanned systems were deployed on the battlefield. The operation involved numerous ground-based robotic systems, drones for mining and demining, kamikaze drones, mobile turrets, and various types of aerial drones as well. Our goal is to save soldiers' lives by replacing them on the battlefield wherever possible with robotic or unmanned systems. This requires meticulous planning, a continuous search for new engineering solutions, commented Colonel Maxim Holubok, Chief of Staff of the Kharkiv Brigade. People are our treasure, says someone, and we'll come back to that idea a little bit later. Okay, lots of drone footage as ever. Now, what's important about this drone footage is it is Magyar's birds. Go and check out the live stream yesterday with Jonathan Fink, myself, and Ukraine Matters, Georgie from Ukraine Matters. At the end of the stream, we brought Andrew Perpetua on for a chat, and he was talking about the organisation of the armed forces, some of the low-cost things they can do to really help. One of the things he was talking about was Magyar, not Peter Magyar, that's the Robert Magyar, isn't it, I think, who is the drone guru, whose units have grown in size to the point where it's now an entire brigade. Is that the right term? And in fact, he's announced that he's not so important anymore. That the importance of what he does has transcended him, and you've now got this expert, huge unit that's able to train others, and he's also does incredible fundraising to get loads of electronic warfare stuff. So this is a really successful part of the Ukrainian armed forces, and he brings out these videos that are indicative of what they're doing, but also they reflect certain tactics and and technology that they are utilizing at any given time. So this video is one, it appears, of fiber optic drones, and we've seen the Russians use these really effectively, and it's good to see that the Ukrainians are doing these. Destruction of Russian T-72B3 tank and 4 BMPs by FPV drones with fiber optics in the Donetsk region, Magyar's bird. So he's operating in a number of places. He seems to have been everywhere, and I wonder whether he eventually will be everywhere in some kind of way. Like all the front line will have the effect of Magyar's birds and units they've trained and tactics they've utilized and technology that they've brought on board. Now here we have another drone montage, but this is up in the Kursk region, and you've got a montage initially of entirely North Korean soldiers caught in the lens of the Ukrainian FPV drone operators in the Kursk region. So they are definitely being targeted in Kursk. They seem to do a lot of crossing these kind of wheat fields, these snowy wheat fields, and are getting taken out by FPV drones fairly consistently. Okay, moving on to things going on, Russia on fire and whatnot. Today, several police cars were set on fire in Russia, Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Tver. So 3 places where police cars being set on fire. Interesting. Is this a reflection of public discontent, or are these a growing example of growing sabotage activities? I mean, either are good news for Ukraine, right? Yesterday, Tim White said, yesterday I reported someone starting a fire within a Moscow bank near the ATMs. It looks like that may have been some sort of a coordinated action, as there have been 3 such incidents in the same day. Here are the burned terminals being moved out of Sberbank in Novosibirsk. So we have 3 burning ATM incidents, 3 burning police car incidents, and then Russia on fire today. People run for, and I don't know what I think about this, but people running for cover after a pensioner let off fireworks inside a shopping centre in Moscow. Police say the 70-year-old woman was forced to do it by Ukrainian scammers. Now, if that's true, I don't know about that. Is that good? Is that morally? I suppose in the context of the war, anything to help stop the war, it's about, depends what moral framework you use. So under a kind of fairly strict moral consequentialism, which is a moral value system whereby you define the morality is derived from the consequences of a given action. It might not be the actual action itself. So going into a shopping centre and letting off fireworks is intuitively, we say that's a morally bad thing to do. But if you're talking about deriving the morality from the consequences, we often talk about this in terms of a railway track with a trolley hurtling down it. It's going to kill 5 people. Do you pull the lever so it only kills 1? So what you've done is you have killed that 1 person. But the consequence of doing all that, so that's bad. Like if you look at it in isolation, you have moved this trolley to kill that person. But if you're looking at the consequences of that, you have saved 5 people by killing that 1 person. So actually, many people would calculate that about 89% of people calculate that is a morally good thing to do, and that's what they would do. It gets complicated because it turns out that if you push someone over, someone's large enough to be killed, but it's large enough to stop the trolley, but they actually die at the same time, that saves the 5 people. Rather than pulling a lever, you push someone over. It turns out that your percentages of people that do that invert. So it turns out that 89% of people there or thereabouts will not push someone off. So there's a lot of psychology involved in morality. It isn't just about calculations. So I can pull a lever, but I can't push someone. So, but the calculation is exactly the same, 1 for 5. Lever, okay, that's how you can drop a nuclear bomb, an atom bomb on Hiroshima. I can't go up and kill 100,000 people with a gun. I wouldn't do that. But I can pull a lever to drop Enola Gay, to drop the bomb on an entire city. That I can find acceptable, and the consequences of doing that is that hopefully the war stops, and that's a moral consequentialism being utilised there, and an understanding of levers as opposed to pushing, etc., etc. So, but the point that is not a perfect moral system. There is no perfect moral system. This is why I'm a moral nihilist to some degree, which is morality doesn't exist. We construct it in our heads. And I'm trying to explain all this to you to say that things are complicated. Morality, there's no clear-cut moral value system that works, which is why after 3,000 years of doing moral philosophers still disagree vehemently on how to do morality. There's broadly split among 3 different positions, but there's no perfect solution. There's no perfect moral value system. We can find problems with them all. And there are problems with moral consequentialism, as there are problems with divine command theory, as there are problems with deontology, as there are problems with virtue ethics. Okay, so there are problems with all of them. But I'm trying to tell you that how do I feel about this? How do I feel about scammers, Ukrainian scammers, scamming a poor old lady to go in and set off fireworks? She's now going to be put in prison. I feel, but then if that's causing issues for the Russian commercial properties that then show discontent, I don't know. Or will that be used against Ukraine? How do we understand this, morally speaking? Well, actually, we need a lot more knowledge about exactly what's gone on. This is the Russians telling us that this is what's happened, but so on and so forth. But anyway, that has happened. That was a bit of a digression. Sorry, not sorry. Moving on to distant strikes. Okay. So Ukrainian air defense have shot down, taken out 113 of 113 Shahid drones or drones of that ilk flying into Ukraine. 57 shot down, 56 taken out by electronic warfare. That's really good news. 100% interception rate. I think there was some S-400 missiles, or at least one sent into Russia, into Ukraine from Russia last night. I don't know where and what damage they might well have done, but S-400s are usually associated with Kharkiv, maybe Sumy, maybe even Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia cities as well. Okay, strikes on Kharkiv and Zaporizhia, speaking about that, yesterday evening, so that could be where the S-400s ended up going. 4 injuries reported in Kharkiv, including a 12-year-old girl, because Russia. A drone has hit an apartment block. We'll come back to drones hitting apartment blocks in a short while. We can talk about where we find it horrific when the Russians do it. What about when the Ukrainians do it? And what's going on when the Ukrainians do it? So Russia has bombed a cancer hospital in Kherson region. 2 big strikes carried out by aircraft, reporting on a specialist oncology hospital in the Kindika area. This is something the Russians do, which is strike hospitals. I'm not going to play it. I'll get into trouble. But yeah, absolutely horrific. No time for the Russians there, and that looks to be intentional. That's not like GPS being jammed and whatnot. I would imagine that's fairly purposeful. We know that the Russians have a tendency to strike at medical centers. They've done that in Syria for years. They've done it in Ukraine now for years. Okay, on the morning of the 20th of December, so it's yesterday morning, the Russian FSB building in Donetsk was struck in a significant attack. Previously, this site housed the Ministry of State Security on the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic. So that, and there's video of that, but a significant strike on a FSB, potentially FSB building there in occupied Donetsk. Good news that, again, Ukrainians are still making these strikes. Now, big story from Russia is concerning this. This is the moment a drone flew into a premium residential building in Kazan this morning. Now, this is quite a long way from the front lines in Ukraine. So this is really significant. Now, what's interesting about this is, and we'll try and refresh that. What's interesting about this is that it is and you can see it there, flying over. It doesn't seem to have sound on this. I've got my sound on, yeah, so no sound on this video. Oh yeah, there it comes. Now this is looks like one of the, that's a Lyuty drone, so it's got those 2 little tails there. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, so that's a Lyuty drone, I think, and that is going into. Now, first of all, you can see there's already a drone that's hit it. This is the second drone. That's as far as I can work out there. Second drone that hits in the identical same place. So this is a residential, an elite residential building, and it slams into that same apartment there. Now, I consistently tell you, the Ukrainians do not make a habit of hitting residential infrastructure because it is counterproductive for them to do so. They would lose support from foreign allies if they are continually just doing what Russia do to Ukraine to try and, I don't know, break the spirit of Russia. They won't be able to break the spirit. They know that. They have also got limited resources. So Ukraine isn't really up for. It's not very sensible for them to just fling munitions into residential infrastructure. So, however, the Russians are gonna play this as in terms of their own narratives, is to be seen. But they'll probably be saying this is terrible. Look at them attack these residential areas. Now, this is almost certainly a targeted hit, and it appears it could well be effectively an assassination attempt. So let's just look at a few more bits and pieces of detail. The Greenwich residential complex situated. Oh, there you go. Situated in the Azure Shores skyscraper in Kazan, which was struck by the drone today, may house an apartment building belonging to Timur Shagivaliev, the CEO of the Alabuga Special Economic Zone. That is, Alabuga is where they produce Shahed drones. Right, so now you're thinking, and I don't know, but you're thinking, okay, this is looking much more like a targeted strike rather than a very purposeful strike. This is 1,000 kilometers from the front line. You're not going to send your drones, go to all the energy of sending drones 1,000 kilometers when there are residential buildings much closer, that you've got a much higher probability of hitting. You're much less likely to get a drone 1,000 kilometers without being shot down. It's just obvious probability, right? Or having a mechanical failure. So if you are sending a drone 1,000 kilometers to hit a residential building, it's because you want to send them to hit that particular residential building. Otherwise, Belgorod city, just over the front line, go and blow up some residential buildings there, and you'll be able to hit them with much more, much cheaper and much more common drones, right? That you've got more of. Okay, just go and blow up some people there. No, so this isn't about blowing up residents. This isn't about breaking the spirit. This is a targeted strike on a particular residential building in a particular place, possibly near to the Shahed drone manufacturing facility, and it could be that it's the head of the Shahed drone manufacturing facility. So there you go. That's my tuppence on that, and it's the only kind of theory that makes any kind of sense to me. Right, something very important, says Kyiv, and this is it. It says it all. Something very important must have been on the 15th floor of this building, 1,000 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. 2 precise drone strikes, same spot, Kazan in Russia. Exactly. Another video from Kazan this morning. So this one has an explosion on the ground. So Kazan was hit in a number of ways. It appears there are claims that I think 8 drone hits were recorded in Kazan. 1 drone attacked an industrial enterprise, according to the head of Tatarstan. Now, I have long said that Alabuga, if that is near there, the Alabuga drone facility, which was previously hit with these kind of Foxbat aircraft drones, needs to be hit again, because they are making tremendous numbers of drones every single day. Look, another day of 113 drones flying into Ukraine. What you need to do is, rather than try and treat the disease, you need to prevent the disease from happening. This is why vaccines are useful, peeps, because it stops the disease rather than letting people get the disease and putting a sticking plaster on it. So the disease here are the Shahed drones. Rather than put the sticking plaster on and shooting those drones down when they get into Ukrainian airspace, you need to stop them from being made in the first place. I fully expect, now that Ukraine have ramped up the production of their long-range drones, if indeed that is true, I fully expect this kind of activity to be taking place. And I fully expect Alabuga to be on the target list, number 1 almost on the target list. So this is a video of Kazan being struck. As you can see, they're just in front of the vehicle there or further off in the distance. A massive explosion there. Now, another video from Kazan this morning. A drone suppressed by electronic warfare crashes into one of the city's courtyards. And this is one of those things where, are they planning on hitting a city courtyard? No, they're not. So this is an example of where they're trying to hit something genuine around, but it's taken out by electronic warfare. 8 drone hits were recorded in Kazan. 1 drone attacked an industrial enterprise, as I mentioned. A bit of good news on, or at least, here we have the absolute heartbreak for people who, for people of Kyiv, where this is a cultural iconic landmark. You've got the second biggest cathedral, Catholic church in Kyiv that was hit, damaged, I don't think it was hit directly. I think it's damage from the building across there were massive explosions there. But anyway, damage to the church there that caused some consternation yesterday, obviously, and now today people have come together for a big cleanup, which is good to see. Big cleanup continues following yesterday's missile damage. In particular, many people have turned up to St. Nicholas's Catholic Church, such spirit, says Tim White, and they'll be cleaning up outside of there is the Toronto business building that was which hugely struck just opposite there, I think. Right, okay, moving on to other bits and pieces now. Some pretty conflicting things going on concerning the Ukrainian armed forces. Ukraine aims to seize the initiative on the front lines before Trump's inauguration to show that they are victors and gain support from the new president, according to the Financial Times. I would say that's precisely what Russia have been doing. The reason Russia have been throwing everything at Ukraine is because they figure that they need to be on the ascendancy before the 20th of January comes along. Have they started to culminate? I don't know. I would expect them to have done, but this is what happens when you get 12,000 North Korean troops, is that you can throw those guys into Kursk, take some people that you put up into Kursk, put them back down on the other front lines and keep pushing, throwing everyone you possibly can at the Ukrainians. And it doesn't matter whether they're well trained or well equipped. You just need to make that territorial gain. And for the Russians and the international community to some degree, mainstream media, it's about look at the Russian gains here, look at the map, look at how, so therefore Russia are doing well and Ukraine are doomed. But actually the reality is that the Russians are losing incredible numbers of people and materiel to these plans of taking territory. But they are taking the territory. It comes at a huge cost. Okay, so the Ukrainians want to then seize back the initiative. So you hear that. This is coming from the Financial Times and no reports saying that. Now, on the other hand, The Guardian is reporting, and this is unverified, so this is not confirmed, says no reports, but this is supposedly coming from a Ukrainian source. The Guardian reports that the Ukrainian General Staff may have ordered Air Force personnel, including Western-trained air defense operators, to be deployed as infantry at the front. Now, if that is true, that's exactly what we have seen from the Russians, which is using other specialists to throw them into meat assaults, into infantry assaults, for which they're not well trained, and it is completely suboptimal because they need those people to do other tasks, and in order that these guys are thrown into infantry assaults, it means those other tasks aren't being done. So someone just randoms here says, my understanding is that Ukraine got multiple different brigades without weapons and equipment, I believe up to 14 of them. However, they could be moving air defense systems closer to protect Ukrainian ground forces and push Russian aircraft back, which is more likely. So, people have different interpretations, or try to be a bit hopium and copium and interpret this in the best possible light. I mean, if it's true at all, if it's true, it is definitely worrying. We know that the Ukrainians need boots on the ground, but to take these valuable air defense assets who have been trained on these systems, if that is happening and using them in infantry assaults, then that is problematic. And how does that fit with the idea that they're aiming to seize the initiative? How can you seize back the initiative if you are so desperate that you're using these specialists in meat defenses, if you like, or infantry defenses? I don't think it's meat assaults. It's not like the Ukrainians are using huge numbers of people to attack over fields, but they just need to defend places from that happening, right? So it's kind of like they just need infantry, not meat assaults. If I said that, that's wrong. But it is in infantry defense of these positions. What does that say about the Ukrainian potential to attack at all in the next 6 months, if that is happening? There are lots of ifs and buts there. Now, Tim White says, oh no, Serhiy Kystylitsa is among the casualties of Zelensky's Kyiv ambassadors. So Zelensky has sacked or moved or shuffling. I don't know exactly what the correct term is, what exactly has happened. But a load of ambassadors seem to have gone. And one of them is someone that we've seen quite a bit of, who's the ambassador to the UN. And he's done an absolutely fantastic job of presenting Ukraine's issues to the UN. So Ukraine's man at the UN has been one of the highest profile and most eloquent critics of the Russian atrocities. He has actually been really good. Also sacked as the ambassador to China, Pavlo Ryabikhin. I don't know if these are sackings or if these are shuffles and whatnot. Now, Noel Report says Zelensky has dismissed Ukrainian ambassadors to several countries, including Lithuania, Slovenia, Japan, China, and others. And the changes affect key diplomatic posts, including the UN permanent representative. Okay. Now, Anton Gerashenko then reports that Zelensky is officially appointed professor of Uzhhorod National University and military serviceman Fedir Shandor as Ukraine's ambassador to Hungary. The professor volunteered to join the AFU on the first day of the full-scale invasion. He famously delivered lectures to students directly from the trenches. I remember that. I reported on that. Incredible. And I think I remember this picture as well. I think that was a picture that was associated with that report. Wow. So that's an interesting appointment. That's a tough gig, isn't it? The ambassador to Hungary, but that's someone who's experienced of the war, who's not just, I don't mean this, that sounds derogatory. But he's not just a soldier, as in, I'm not devaluing soldiers in any way or saying, but he's got, what I'm saying is he's a professor, he's got expertise, and I'm not saying professors are more valuable than soldiers, but if you want to give someone a job of being an ambassador to Hungary, if you've got multivarious skills and experiences for someone in such a tough job, he's like, I can tell you these things because I know this academically to be the case. So I can give you the theory. Do you know what? I can also give you the freaking experience because I fought them on the front lines, and these are the experiences I had, and this is what the Russian soldiers are doing. And you want to say that's not true? Come through me because I experienced that. So what I'm saying is this is potentially an exceptionally good choice for, I don't know enough details, but like in principle, this seems like a really good choice for an ambassador to a nation that could be really, really tricky to do diplomacy with. Okay, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, predicts the war will end by the end of 2025. Okay, real GDP growth in Ukraine is to be at 4% in 2024. The economic impact of winter energy shortages may be more limited than previously thought. And that's good news. I mean, I've talked about the heroes of Ukraine being so varied, and some of the most heroic things that they're doing are getting the energy infrastructure back up and running. And you have these people that go out actually to very dangerous places as well, not only in terms of they're being constantly targeted by drones, but they're often very close to the front line too, and sorting out, and some of these emergency energy infrastructure engineers, they get targeted by the Russians as well. So they're doing an incredible job, and it looks like they might well have the energy infrastructure in a better position, considering so many power stations have been fundamentally thwacked into a better position than was previously predicted. Now, the year-end inflation forecast is raised to 10%, largely due to accelerating commodity prices. So that's a little bit of an insight there. Yeah, as someone says, given they are in the middle of a horrible war, they're not doing too badly overall. I hope their prediction is right, and we can see what the Ukraine economy can really do. There are good things ahead for them when this war is over. And we're going to go into some negative and then a happy bit at the end. So here we have Anton Gerashenko talking us through the incredible scenes from Anapa and along the coast in the Azov Sea region, where the oil slicks have been washing ashore. So tons of fuel has been thrown into the sea during the wreck of the Russian tankers, and it's reaching the shores of Russia's Krasnodar region. The plume stretched 55 kilometers, Russian telegram channels write. It's reported that the beaches of Anapa may be unsuitable for human habitation for years. Also, the Kerch Strait water area may be polluted due to the change of wind. Some incredible scenes, distressing scenes of oil all over beaches. Indeed, the Russians are, it appears, trying to do something about it. They're not just sitting back and going, oh, well, that's happened, won't be using that beach. They are doing some clear up there. Fuel oil continues to wash up on the beaches of Russia's resort city of Anapa after the wreck involving 2 Volga Neft tankers last Sunday. According to Russian authorities, cleaning up the shoreline will take at least a month, though mazut, that's that type of oil, will likely continue to wash up for many months. It is incredible. They put that in bags And yeah, you can see from various footage what they're doing. The sand on the beaches will remain toxic for another 10 years, says Russian media. Following the spill, several environmental groups expressed concern over the ecological threat the Russian oil trade represents. Greenpeace and Bellona warn that the continued operations of Russia's shadow fleet, which consists of outdated, uninsured vessels, will inevitably lead to more disasters like this, but on an even bigger scale. Really horrific. Interesting that someone puts microbes to the rescue. How microbes clean up oil. Lessons from the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Studies of Deepwater Horizon oil spill using omics technologies revealed important microbial community dynamics that will enable better, more data-driven responses to future environmental disasters, etc., etc. I was seeing something the other day. I almost had it on one of my threads, actually, that was it from Chernobyl? They found some microbe that is eating radiation or something like that. And that's fascinating. You know, life is incredibly adaptive. Sometimes not quick enough, but sometimes it can be frighteningly quick. Or not frighteningly, like thankfully quick. Okay, another bit of footage here from Anapa, just incredible. The depth to which this goes. It looks to be like 3 layers of oil there. It's almost like hunting for fossils in different rock strata. But there you are seeing that all of these bags being filled up with oil there. That's going to be a long-term job, that one. Look at all of those bags. They're full of oil. Yeah, I wonder what they do with it. Take it away and burn it for fuel? I don't know. Right, Syria. Now, we're going to go from environmental disaster to freedom and liberty, and Syria's first Christmas without the Russian-backed dictatorship. So this is a celebration of freedom and victory in Tishreen Park in the city of Tartus. So this is where the Russians had a base. And I just thought this would be a nice way to end the video, which is, you know, when you rid a region of autocracy, and there are all sorts of worries about how Syria is going to be governed. There are lots of worries about Islamic fundamentalists being involved there, but there are also lots of other people who are pretty happy with the state of affairs. I've seen lots of people without hijabs, and, you know, people really happy with their liberty that they had not experienced there for a long time. So, you know, we must, as long as we provide enough support in all the right places, hopefully freedom will prevail. Anyway, here you go. So there you go. There's I guess a sense of what Syria could be, a sense of positivity for the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. Do remember that we are continuing the campaign for the trucks for Ukraine. Hopefully going to get them out by convoy at some point early next year. We are 35,704 euros through the 40,000 euro goal. That is incredible. You guys are amazing. Really appreciate your support there. Please like, subscribe and share. I'm also setting my own little random target for no particular reason. Doesn't really make any difference to the channel. But 50,139 subscribers by the 2nd of January. Don't know where I'm at the moment, but probably not going to make that. But every little helps, or it doesn't make all that much difference. But it'd be great if you can subscribe if you haven't already. Press my face above. Take care, guys. Speak to you soon. Merry Christmas.